All right, so I'm going to move on to our illustrious new knights and invite them to join us now to speak. And that's going to be Katie Mcallief, who is awesome, from Volusia County. Got to meet her a couple months ago when we were down in Florida. And my longtime friend, Dr. Connie Kolosey. Hello, you guys. Hey.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can hear you. Okay, I can hear you. Connie, can I hear you?
Yeah, you can hear me, I think. Can you?
Yes. Now I can. Yeah, now I can. Okay, so let me go over your awards, and then we're going to have a discussion about kind of what's going on for you guys. All right. So first of all, Pinellas, about 104,000 students.
Slipping a little, but probably just under 100,000 at this time.
Yeah. So urban mostly.
Yes.
Okay, so here's what's really awesome about you guys. You're offering both a detailed core curriculum and a hybrid schooling, as well as your level up program, remote learners for further enrichment. And you also have this personalized learning pathway administration through a new online platform, a parent portal. Awesome. And you also have numerous systems and apps in your sort of visually organized digital ecosystem. Now, we have one other district that does their ecosystem visualization like you do, but that is so super cool. We put it on the slide. And we listed out some of the software that you use. It's probably a lot deeper than that though, right, Connie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to come back to more questions with you about that. I want to go on to Volusia and share their winning profile. All right. So Katie, awarded for personalized learning with attention to built-in accessibility and preparatory maneuvers for AI recommendations for student learning and teacher lesson building, because I know you're into that. And from what we know, what you guys have done for moves in this area, it's pretty great. Then plus administrative forward leadership that provides school choice fairs, parent guides, full tech services portal, and text communications out to the community. We give a partial list of your software model architecture. So there's your award, Katie, and I'm sure you're going to share it with everybody in the district.
Yes, it's very exciting to take this back to Volusia County. They'll be very excited about that.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to come back to you two about sort of really some questions that we want to go through and just sort of hear the machinations that both districts have gone through in the course of the last year. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that focuses on you two for right now. There we go. Okay. So let's talk about kind of like how you got here as a district. Let's go first into the journey. Connie, you want to go first, the journey, and any other color you want to give around that?
All right. Well, so, the journey, I've been in this role, this is my 6th school year. And so we early on really realized that we needed to kind of pull together and get organized as a district and create, we started with just the idea of a single sign-on, first of all, let's all, and then deciding which applications that we want to use and have access to. And of course, that's just been a continuous and mushrooming situation. But then, we had a lot of structures in place prior to March 2020 that really set us up. But we'd worked on our personalized learning pathway, which is a place where students can log on and see their current data and then also have access to individualized lessons. And that kind of came out of our work with the Gates Foundation and personalized learning. And that was sort of the takeaway for our district with that. And then, 2020 happened, and we were not even thinking of going to a one-to-one device situation prior to that. And so that created an interesting bump. And so then, at that point, we adopted a LMS and dove in there. And we've really, you know, come to a place now where all of that really fast learning is setting us up for exciting things going forward.
Let me ask you about those in a second. But going forward. Okay, Katie, so can you sort of describe a little bit the journey that the district has had?
Yes, for sure. So I have been the coordinator of learning technologies coming up on a year in January. So it's been a short but busy time in the current position I'm in. But we definitely have made some massive strides, and I've been a member of the Information and Technology Services Division for about 6 or 7 years now. And over the course of that time, I think I've been fortunate to see us grow through a multitude of different lenses, meaning that my first responsibility was a personalized learning leader, and much of these initiatives were birthed out of the digital classroom plan. So as a personalized learning leader, we were tech coaches essentially, and we had zones, and we were able to really go out and help and support our teachers in the blended technology integrated integration modes. But we were also able to really help our district as well in that transition. We talk a lot about the digital transition, right? And there's a cultural transition. And so a lot of the role that the PLLs played was that exactly. And so that was the inception around 2015, 2016. Around that time, we also adopted Canvas as our LMS. So we also had ClassLink as our SSO, and we also offer Clever. We are one of ClassLink's largest Southeast school districts with the amount of rostered programs we offer. So we really pride ourselves on that and creating that standardization. When 2020 hit, I agree. It kind of threw us for a loop. It was kind of ironic to see that we were fully prepared in the terms of the instructional materials in a digital sense, but it was the hardware. So we scrambled, we made it work, and then we were on a 3-year plan to be a one-to-one school district. And so from there, we really just accelerated that 3-year plan, and we became a one-to-one school district in the matter of a couple of months. And so through that, we made our K through 2 all iPads one-to-one. We made our grades 3 through 5 laptops in carts. And then we made our grades 6 through 12 one-to-ones that they can take home. And so if you know what that's like, and if there's much more than just put a device in a kid's hands, we're really growing from that. So very well established in our digital resources, our LMS, our practices, but really looking forward to creating some standardization and support to make this one-to-one program the best it can be.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's a pretty heavy lift you guys had to do. There was quite a few other districts, obviously, that had to do the same thing. Kind of wild. All right. So I want to ask each of you now in turn about the thing that I've sort of harped on a little bit when I was talking about the data. You just mentioned, Katie, that you had more of a hardware issue than a software issue. But I've been harping a little bit on the fact that, having, like St. Brina's done, a viable curriculum map, right? Like the stuff is sequenced out and teachers aren't having to do all the finding and all the building. This is sort of like the next hill to climb because it's alien ground even thinking that for a lot of teachers. Are like, what? You're not telling me what to do. I get to do all my own stuff. You're out of here, right? So I want to go to you, Connie, first on that particular point, because I'm suggesting something that is almost like blasphemy. Like what? Right? Why is she saying that? Is she crazy? But there's a reason for you that's going to make it better. So what are your thoughts on what I'm saying with that, and what have you guys done?
Well, we had really begun addressing that prior. So our teachers are very used to having a district curriculum guide with resources. And we had created on SharePoint prior to 2020. Each grade level, the resources, the progress monitoring tools, the additional supplemental pieces that would come in. And so our teachers are kind of accustomed to being provided with that. Now, that doesn't say that they don't go out there and look around and see what's out there and see what else they can do. And that's a whole nother story. But we are really a resource-rich district, thanks be to God. And so our teachers really have a lot of what we're calling our evergreen apps, where it's like, okay, guys, before we go out into the Wild West, let's take a look at these apps that we do have and that you are provided on a district-wide basis, and they run through they're interoperable with all of our systems. And if you find a thing that you can't do with the systems that we have provided, then let's talk about that, and we can take a look. But so we already had a lot of buy-in for that, and then when we did get going with Canvas, and we built our own resource center, and so now each grade, each subject can go in and find the resources that the district content specialists have for them. And then in addition to that, I think the one key gain and thing that's moving forward is my digital learning team. Prior to all of this, we kind of functioned as a supplemental thing over at the side, and we would say, hey, we can help you with that. You know, come listen to us, please. And then all of a sudden we were, you know, the bells of the ball. And but it's super exciting the way our district teaching and learning team, which is gigantic, you know, a lot of people have really now come into the fold and are taking advantage of my digital learning experts, so that it's not a separate thing any longer. It's not, oh, now we're going to do our curriculum and now we can do some cool technology things.
Weaving. Awesome. Yeah, so you've done all the right things. You've made it so that the teacher doesn't walk in going, I've got a blank slate, I got to do everything all myself, and then they lose their minds, their hair. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, good. So Katie, what's your thinking on this idea of, you know, viable curriculum map and support rather than sort of a Wild West for teachers? What is your thought on that?
It's funny because I think we are in the thick of that right now. You know, blessing and a curse at the same time. When we went through last school year, we had hybrid learning environments, and then the year prior to that, we had March till June was a complete shutdown, and we had pretty much everything stood up. But teachers are also, and I think you would see this in a brick and mortar setting as well, but I think it's so much more evident in a virtual setting because of the support that's needed to host a virtual app, software, etc. But we are in the thick of it with creating standardization, and with the standardization comes a lot of growing pains. It's funny, I actually had someone call me and they mentioned the word micromanaging, and I thought that was very funny, but I can see that, right? Like I can see, I as a teacher in my brick and mortar setting, I would bring in all of this different types of curriculum, and it's just hosted in a much different way when it's a brick and mortar and not in a digital type environment. And after explaining that and kind of hosting that vision, the principal was turned right around, right? So I think part of that is sharing the vision, sharing the goal, allowing people to see where this is going. We are truly in, and I don't know, I've been in this world for 6-7 years, and I know that is like a blimp of time in the world of technology, right? But I think we are in like a very visible digital transformation. Like it's magic, but I think you can see it, right? It's kind of fascinating. But in Volusia, one of the ways that we are combating that and trying to create the standardization is we are creating a technology solutions catalog. And so essentially we are using and leveraging our SIS with all the course codes. And we are saying that this course code, this column, they would have a standard digital resource. And so we would create that standard. Then there would be a deviation column where maybe for this course is going to be using this product as well. So we're doing that in twofold for both a software and a hardware point of view. So we are in the middle of creating that, and that will be accessible to anybody. So if I was a teacher, I would be able to access the Technology Solutions Catalog, find my course code, and be able to identify, am I in a standard? Do I have a deviation? And what does that look like? We're also trying to work really closely with our teaching, leading, and learning department with aligning a lot of the curriculum maps to the ISTE standards. That's a very hard transition to make. And I don't even know if it's so much as a conceptual difficulty, it's a time and it's a resource difficulty, right? Finding the time to make that transition. We're also in a very unique time where a lot of us are going to see a loss of learning just because of the nature of what's occurring, right? And if you research digital transformation, you'll typically see the first year there is a little dip in a learning loss. And I think that's scary for a lot of our schools to take that risk and feel comfortable taking that risk, knowing that we might see a little dip. I'm always phrasing it in the world of use this as an opportunistic moment, right? And if we're going to dip, let's dip with technology and we'll bring it back up with technology too, right? So just trying to get that out there, doing a lot on our end. We're also creating a software acquisition process through one of our new vendors, which will help tremendously in the purchasing of these products. A lot of schools will go rogue and just purchase a product, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to configure that. We're not going to be able to roster that. We have to make sure that even at the sake of a student's lens, there is continuity. So if we have a lot of transition taking place, we want to make sure the student going from this middle school to this middle school because he moved is familiar and it makes continuity sense, right? So that's really important that we're looking at. We're also laying down a lot of our foundational layers to provide us some predictive analytics and allowing us to see where trends are going. The state of Florida has adopted some standard assessment metrics, and so we're looking to sort of piggyback off of that and kind of layering our digital usage and the case standards on top of that, and making sure that what we're doing is kind of what Connie said. We're in it with, we're no longer this silo, right? Well, the last year and a half, I think I've been counting, I think it's like 20 months now, has been hard. It has been really hard for us, but it's been amazing too. Like it's the transformation, like I said, and you'll probably hear me preach about it 10 times more, but the transformation is so visible that you can't help but like just catch on to it and keep going. So all good things, hard things, but very, very good, productive ways that we're trying to create some standardization in our district.
Awesome. Splashdown, there's a lot of friction and a lot of inertia. Mm-hmm. You have to get through there. My good friend Aaron Cook in Oregon had said it's the human threshold of change management. Like, how much can a human manage in one period of time? There's a limit, right? And if you sort of average it all out, it's like you're not going to turn that whole battleship on a dime, right? No. So before I go into a next round of questions with you two, because I could talk to you both for hours, I think Drew Hines has a question.
Well,
Doug, if you can unmute him.
I know Brian and Matthew had requested that time because we didn't have one for December.
Hi, who's unmuted?
Some things that they.
I unmuted Drew.
What Matthew was talking about, like what.
Hey, Drew, are you unmuted? Drew, you're muted. We might have to mute him again if he doesn't speak up.
The agenda, and then click that stuff.
Okay, let's mute him because we're just getting background noise.
You can see his question in Q&A, Lonnie, if you just want to ask it.
Okay. I got to find where Q&A is on my dashboard. You want to ask it? Oh, wait, there it is. I see it. I have so much stuff on my dashboard. I can't, it's like tiny to be able to see it. So he said, with the volume of prospecting going on, what are night districts doing to sort the wheat from the chaff with regards to software device partners? Worth considering. Yeah, so, you know, I'm going to come to you, Connie. I think you already said you're getting ready to have sort of a vetting thing. This is hot, and it's the EduJedi focus in the last couple years now with our digital learning experience standards. Katie, you heard about them a little bit when we were down there in Florida, but the UI UX value, not only of the individual thing, but its life within your master ecosystem, is becoming something that's more than you normally look at, with just like, what's the learning value? Is this the right little bit of knowledge that I want to purvey? It's much larger contextually, UI, UX, blah, blah, you know. So Drew, I've just expanded on Drew's question. You know, sort of, he came down to, what are you doing to look at what you're using? You first, Connie.
Of course, there's a million things we can do, and maybe 500,000 are probably good things to do, but we can't do them all. And so we really do have to pick which ones we're really going to focus on, which ones we're going to support, which ones we can support. And we, you know, a few years ago, and have had a quasi process for vetting these things, but we just really have recently codified the system. Our district has purchased a platform called Asana for project planning, and it does have a lot of flexibility in it to help us track. And in a district of this size, there's so many departments that need to know and what is happening and need a voice. And what's really great for one department might not make any sense for another. And so through this Asana project planning, we are codifying our IT governance, and the stuff cannot get through purchasing without having looked at this. And it's not intrusive. It's a real quick, hey, this is math. Why do you want to buy this math thing? We have Dreambox. What's Dreambox on? And when? What time are you going to take away from Dreambox to do this thing? And then also the standardization of devices. So we, you know, again, lots of great devices out there, different things that you can use, but let's all learn how to use it, and so we can get good and support. So, you know, for our student devices, we opted into Dell hard clam laptops, and you know, we could have gone a lot less expensive than that, but we wanted the device to be something that the kids could use going forward, and our army of people, it's a small army, can support that device. So it really is honestly leadership who sets the vision, and we've had stable leadership in our district for a while now, since 2013. And when you're not running around trying to guess what's going to happen next, it really allows you to move forward, and we've had that luxury.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's running a good, or running a tight ship, as they used to say, right? So when I hear you talk about things like, you know, project planning and blah, 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 I'm like, wow, I want to hear that from every school and district. Of course, some of the smaller ones, they can't do that, right? Like, they're like, what? I just let teachers do whatever they want. What? You know? But when you're larger, you really need to have that level of sophistication. Otherwise, it's a madhouse. It's not an organization, you know? All right. So Katie, what are your thoughts on the same stuff?
Yeah. So from essentially two different worlds. So right now, in the world of information technology services, the division I live in, we are doing a lot of, like I mentioned before, the purchasing of foundational layers. So the purchasing of software programs that are going to filter our network, help our cybersecurity, safety and security, classroom management, digital resource analytics. There's more, I could go on. And what we're doing with that is we are taking the entire leadership team as a whole. Again, it is a lot of project management. And meeting with each vendor individually, we together have set some non-negotiables as well. And that's actually helped a lot. So with the big picture in mind and the vision and the goal of where we're going, we were able to set some non-negotiables. Then we meet with vendors for a first time. We meet with vendors for a second round. And after each meeting, and there's quite a bit, we are all going in there as a very agnostic mind frame as well. And you know, we're very open, but they have to meet these specific criteria for sure. And then actually this Friday, we should be coming up with some final decisions. So I'd probably say this whole process started in September, and it has been a massive vetting process. We have seen multiple vendors. We know that there are essentially dog and pony shows that get put on for us. And so we also ask for demo sites. We reach out to surrounding districts who also have that product and get some authentic feedback with that as well, just to make sure that we're making the right decision for Volusia County schools, right? So that's ITS's side. For the adoption process, it's actually written into our district strategic plan to have a software acquisition process and to drive down the funding and the monies that we're putting towards these repetitive digital resources. So through one of the vendors that we're spinning up, we are creating a software acquisition process that is very automated in the sense that it will be routed to specific people for approval and denials. Those specific people, for example, assistant superintendents, cabinet level, district curriculum people will have their non-negotiables as well. Based on the routing that they have through an approval or denial, it will get passed to specific people and then it will get approved. And so that's for a very one-off request for digital resources, very much like what Connie said, that cannot go through purchasing through our ERP unless it hits specific people for the approval of that purchase. That has helped to stop a lot of the random purchases that are going on. And then the bigger picture with our digital textbook adoption process, we stand up a very vigorous adoption process where vendors are required to fill out a branched form based off of even more non-negotiables. I would probably say our digital resource adoption has the most constringent non-negotiables. And it's, believe it or not, it's actually worked fantastic. We've been able to really dive deep into existing vendors who are like, oh, they need that. And they've put it on their product map and it's gotten done. But we've also been able to discover some small vendors that are very well ahead and they just, aren't the big mecca vendors, and we've been able to adopt some of that and they've been fantastic. They're very small. They have a great customer support team. They have great content. They have a great platform. And so I think it's very interesting when we start putting in these processes and these sort of, and I know, LeiLani, you know my love for AI and automation. And so once we start putting in these processes, the amount that gets taken off of us in the sense of, okay, let's all come for a physical meeting and talk about this one purchase that we don't have time for that. That's how fast the stuff's going. And so, through those processes, we're able to really start narrowing down a lot of what's coming through.
Really wise. I want to come back to the future and AI, and we're going to end this hour with more of a talk about the future with you two. But Brian Seymour, if Doug, if you could unmute him, he's going to share something. He's also one of our former knights. So from a winner from a previous year from Pickerington. Brian, you want to share? Go ahead. Do we have him unmuted?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, we can hear you. All
Great.
right.
Sorry, I didn't have my computer set up. I didn't think I was going to talk. But anyway, thanks for including me here. We created a very interesting digital content process because we had the same problem. We had, how are we trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and trying to defer the concept of this is the next shiny thing, or I saw this at a conference and now I want to have it, and we really haven't looked through it and how does it align. So I'm not sure if I have the ability to send it to everybody. LeiLani, if you could send that link to everybody.
I think Doug can send it to the whole attendees, and then we'll also put it out in the post promotion with all the editorial.
Yeah. So this is our entire process. It's lengthy, but it does help us to preserve those things. So there's lots of questions in there. There's a nice flow chart. There's a quick, rapid implementation rubric that you can use as well too. So feel free to dig into that if you'd like.
Good. Well, thank you, Brian. Thanks for joining today. All right. So back to the other questions about kind of where things are going. You both talked a little bit about this past couple years, right? Like everything that was gone through. What's happening for you going into this next year? I mean, then we're going to go even beyond that to talk about AI and where things are going in the software model architecture of things, because that's floating way above what most people are even thinking about right now. But I want to go there with you two as Knights. But really shorter term, like first question, Connie, back to you is, what's the next year look like for you? What do you think? I mean, you guys are both in Florida, so it's a little different than a lot of the rest of the country.
Well, so a big initiative that we have rolled out starting last year and continuing by next school year, all students will have a device, a one-to-one device. And then, you know, that's all fine to say. And I heard my colleague, Katie, say that, you know, getting the device in their hands is great, but, and big, it's not easy. But then, you know, how do we get to the instructional piece, and what do we do with these devices, and what does that look like for the teacher? What we don't want to see is walking into a classroom where now and missing out on that interaction with the teacher, that strong point of that teaching time face to face, and now everybody's got their face into a device. And so we had started work prior to the pandemic, and we had created a matrix which basically takes a look at 4 components of research and information, creativity and problem solving, and then stepping that along a continuum between teacher-centered and student-centered. And so we had already worked on this document, and we were able to parlay that into a set of PD modules that my team is in charge of PD. They were in terms of digital learning. And over the past summer, we had just about 1,000 session completions with our teachers. Now that's kind of a drop in the bucket because we have 6,500 teachers, but still it is creating forward movement. And we also had the opportunity to work with all of the teaching and learning leaders, the instructional staff developers, the content specialists. And those folks have taken that experience, and that's where our Level Up initiative comes. And this is where they're really thinking about how to reach out to students and family outside of the classroom. And I just want to give you just one little event that just took place that we're so excited about, that the state of Florida, we love our assessments, and we've created a new assessment that's coming up for high schoolers on civics. Now, there is no accountability for this except political, and all those scores will go out, but it doesn't matter to the students how they do, and it doesn't matter to the school how they do. And it's like, okay, we want to do well. And what we created was a review for that. And we through Teams, we were able to hook up several, we scheduled it so that there were several schools scheduled at the same time. Classrooms could be lifetime, completing in a Nearpod time to climb. And we had over 1,600 kids log in, and teachers log in. And so this is kind of a tip of the iceberg, but this idea of collaboration and competition, friendly competition between classrooms is just something that could not have happened. And I think these creative ideas are what we're going into the future with.
Yeah, that's super powerful. Yeah, people are learning to live in the digital world, and it's not cold and scary, and it is rather friendly, and you do get actual interaction. I get it that we want to be back in buildings too, but you know, we're in both now. It's just the world. Well, thank you for sharing that little story. All right. Okay, so Katie, your thoughts, the next year for you.
Yeah, the next year. What I want to do versus what we're going to do are different, right? So we are actually in the middle of creating our 5-year technology plan. We had one when the digital classroom plan rolled out, which was an initiative in Florida. And then ironically enough, the digital classroom plan ended the last year that we went distance learning. And so we've had this gap, right, from last school year, where I truly feel like last school year we were all just in survival mode, right? Volusia County Schools has also had a massive turnover in administration and leadership. And so we're kind of have our feet on the ground right now, and we are actually sending out this month a user support / digital transformation survey to all of our staff, and just identifying where they're at. And then, but where they're at in twofold, and kind of from 3 different audience lenses. We wanna see where our support staff is at. We want to see where our administrative staff is at, and then we definitely want to see where our teachers are at, right? And so the teachers are actually going to have a little bit more information to provide in terms of where they're at with their digital transformation. And so I'm really excited to get that data and analytics to be able to build this 5-year technology plan. So I know it's December. It's a little hard to say where we're going next year, but I can for sure say that we are going to start making some schools that are going to be our model schools. We are going to be going through some of this vetting process that we have been talking about, right? And making sure that these digital transformation schools are going to have kind of be the model, right? And working with those teachers and that administrative staff and working towards this model of scaling up everything we've done. And so we're still in the tech in hands, and we want to make sure that tech in hands is effective. And we want to make sure that they have what they need to move it forward, and that they're using it for our students to not just be consumers, but creators. Like Connie said, can we have students from across the district communicate with each other over Microsoft Teams to work on a common project, right? I think when we stand this technology solutions catalog up, you're going to see that, oh, I teach that course code, which is a very formal word, but oh, I teach civics, right? And there are 10 civics teachers around the district. That was an easy number. There are way more than 10. But we're all going to band together because they're in the curriculum map. There is this massive project that we all have to do. And so we're all working together across the district, learning beyond the walls of their classroom and their school even. So we're really excited to take it there. Very excited to get everybody on the same page as well. I think what we have to be very cautious of next year is to make sure that we're pacing it correctly. Right. So as much as I would love for us to get to this full digital transformation, we're not there yet. And I think you'd find that if you rushed it, it's just you got to get the buy-in. You got to get the teachers. You got to find the teachers that are really moving in this direction, capitalize on them. Something else that we're doing in my division for technology services, and I keep mentioning that because I know a lot of people who are in my position either live in the curriculum department, they might live in the technology services department, they might live on their own little island, right? And so I want to make it a point to say in technology services, we're looking to stand up a summer summit in Volusia County Schools where we're going to pull in our field support, all the different departments within ITS, pulling in some vendors and having this summit where we're all sort of on the same page because we truly have silos within our own division. And I think we would find that in most districts, right? That, oh, I just load the software, or, oh, I just touch the access points. And without having the understanding of who the hate saying the word customer, but who you service and how what you do impacts students' academic success, there's always going to be that gap there. So as much as the summit is to really provide a knowledge base, it's also to create a universal understanding with ITS to make sure that they understand what's going on in the curriculum world and understanding their why. Very easy for people in technology services and people outside of just TLL together to lose the why and to lose that vision. And so I think as we stand up this Tech Summer Summit, I'm really, really excited about it. I think it's going to give us a lot of opportunities, and it's going to move our field support away from this break fix model. And it's going to allow them to be able to help a teacher in more just the sense of my laptop won't turn on or it's not connecting to the internet. It's going to really allow them to engage in the pedagogy potentially in the curriculum and why is this digital resource not working and kind of seeing it from that lens as well. So that's a huge transformation for Volusia County schools.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear how that goes for you. Maybe you could do me a favor and keep a little blog about the whole thing. So we could put that out nationally. Here's how her vision went, and this is what went down, That would be awesome. I know Connie would probably like that too. Well, I want to come back to now both of you, and I'm going to highlight something you guys both sort of hinted at and rename it, and that is in 2022, I think a major hill that you'll be climbing, and you both said this, and many others will be climbing, is actually administering into your administration and all your teachers a mental map of your digital ecosystem. Because right now, I mean, any corporation person will tell you this too. It's like most of the traffic between staff is, where did you keep that file? Where's the link? How do I find that? Right? And tech services is the same way. So building your digital model architecture and actually mapping it a little bit like the slide that we just showed, that you guys do this, get more detailed. In other words, I believe, and I said this several years ago, and Nashville was teasing me about it a while ago. They said, you said there would be emerging jobs of digital curators and digital librarians. And now we have them. We laughed at you 3 years ago, but now you were right. Yeah, I think that digital navigation, just setting that into the minds of people, like, oh, that would be in SharePoint. Oh, that would be in the OneDrive. Oh, that you're going to host over here. Oh, no, that's a login over here. I mean, that is like the hugest friction. And just creating that mental map and maybe assigning a digital librarian who's the go-to universal person or persons that you go to and go, I can't find such and such. Where do I find it? Right? This is huge. This is huge. So Connie, coming back to you, is that software model architecture now modeling that into human minds? What's your thoughts on that?
People don't want to know anything until they want to know it. And so it's really hard to tell people in advance, and what they're going to need to know. So it's how, for us, the challenge is how do we be there when they really now have a question about this. And so we do have a team with all the schools, 126 schools. There's only 4 of them, but they're each assigned to a group of schools. And we've really made huge inroads. And this model has been in place for a bit, but we're really to the place now where you could ask a principal, who is your instructional technology coach? And they can say, oh, that's Laura Clark. They know that person. Yeah. And so, and then also building into our library media specialists, who are our library media technology specialists, so that they become the librarians at their school for not just the books, but the resources as well. And so, we really have made, I'm just so excited, and as you talk and I think about what we've accomplished, is actually having a digital ecosystem, and one actually exists, and people are becoming more and more aware of it, at least who to go to ask.
Yeah, that's powerful. And it's part of the friction, right? Like, where's what, for the teachers and the students and the parents, that's like, we all had to deal with an enormous amount of that. Okay. So your thoughts on the same thing, Katie, because you mentioned, the digital modeling and, the friction is the mental map that people carry around in their own heads, right? Like, that's where the friction is. So what are your comments about that?
I love the digital navigation, and you just gave me a fantastic professional development idea. And I think from people who sit in my role and I do it every day. And I think that goes back kind of what Connie was saying, like they don't want to know it until they want to know it, right? Or like digital navigation and I'm not being like braggy or anything, but digital navigation for people like us who do it every single day is second nature. Like a file navigation. I say the word file navigation, and that is lost on people's head. And so I think you make a really great point that as much as when you ask what we're doing next year, as much as I would love to move us to like this massive digital transformation, there are still very, very, very basic ideas that need to be ironed out before we can get there, or else we're going to lose a massive amount of people. And that's where I was talking that buy-in is not going to be there because they're just going to become so frustrated. I'm done with this. I don't even know where I saved that, right? Or I don't even know where to find that. And so I think that's fantastic. And I love the idea of a digital navigation. I also love the idea of a digital librarian. We are in the process, our media specialists, as we've gone one-to-one. And I'm sure a lot of districts who went massively one-to-one in a very accelerated format, media specialists probably took the hardest hit, right? And media specialists are definitely a focus for us because they are the heart of what's going on. Their role is fundamentally changing. As much as we love a good librarian book and a classic Dewey Decimal System checkout process, the whole thing, there are some foundational knowledge skills that kids still need to know. The other majority side of that is it's changing a lot. And so I think the more that we focus on that and work with them on what that digital transformation looks like for them, we might see more of that capacity built out in a more accelerated pace, right? We in Volusia County Schools have digital learning teacher leaders. They're called DLTLs. It's a supplemented position, so I don't own them per se, but they do fall into the funding source of ITS, and we do guide them and we support them. We provide them with the necessary materials they need. But the school gets to pick who their DLTL is. If I got to pick, it would be all the media specialists, and that's not the case. However, when we talk about trends and looking at emerging trends and things like that, very evident, schools that have their DLTL as their media specialist, their school is very much further along, but very much more efficient in their technology processes. Whereas if a school had chosen perhaps an academic coach or a second grade teacher, that role really innately falls into the media specialist role. I would love, I don't have oversight of the media specialists, but I would love to have that, even that name change, because media is obviously a multimedia, right? But I think even adding what Connie said, like I don't remember what you said they were called in your world, Connie, but the technical piece very laid out for them would really help in that transition. And they would also be incredible pioneers for digital literacy, all sorts of things. So I love this conversation. Well, I love doing this stuff. I think digital navigation is genius, like so simple but genius, right? So those are my thoughts.
Well, good. Well, thank you for that. Well, I'm going to make sure that Doug's inviting anyone who wants to make last questions. We have like 13 minutes left to wrap this up. And the thing I want to do now with my two illustrious knights, and anyone else that's on that wants to weigh in on this, is I want to talk about the future. And I want to frame it for both of you. And Katie, you know, I'm going to frame it with AI. I think AI is a major pivot point, but it is at the tip of the mountain. And artificial intelligence, there's two levels to it. There's like, you know, it's a robot, it can do things, you know, it's like amazing, or it's a piece of software that can think for itself. We're a long ways from that. And we're probably more at the level in the future, near future, of automated recommendations, but that sits still on top of the mountain, because first you have to make sure all of your data sets work together, and you have, you know, some 5,000 pieces of software floating around, not talking to each other. Maybe only the only centralized move they make is to roster together, but the data that's inside Dreambox, that's inside BrainPop, that's inside a lot of these courseware programs, you can't pull it out, right? It might give you its own little dashboard, but now you got teachers checking 30 different dashboards every hour on the hour. How do you get all the way to the top of that mountain with AI? So I'm gonna go with that, and then I'm gonna go to another level. I think is maybe a shorter term. So I want you guys to talk about both of these. Is that software, just file nesting and how you file that digital navigation you were just talking about, Katie. In about 2 years, and maybe even mid 2022, this is going to start happening. People need to dekludge. It's like you keep buying more stuff and putting it in your house. And then pretty soon it's like, where did I put that? How do I do that? How do I get rid of these 16 folders that are all named the same thing? Right? Because you've just overkludged your entire ecosystem as an individual teacher or as a whole organization. You're using OneDrive or SharePoint, figuring out how to rename something and nest it so that this is a subfolder of that folder, and rename that folder over there and consolidate over here and get that channel going. It's hard. And I think those two things are, and hybrid logistics, which I could talk about for 3 hours, but I won't. I want to go with those two things. Like, where is automated recommendations engine and AI? What are inhibitors? Where do you see it in the future? And then also this thing about housekeeping digitally. It's going to avalanche on you in the middle of 2022. I'm just telling you. Connie, you go first.
Well, you mentioned the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
that's about all that we're looking at right at this moment. But I mean, it is a legitimate interest and concern of, and we have recently kind of restructured our processes within the district, starting at the top. To really bring together all the different data resources to, what do we want a student dashboard to look like? What do we want a parent dashboard to look like? And, are there vendors out there that are providing this, or do we build it ourselves? And we actually brought in an outside consultant group who has been interviewing all of us. And, what are your pain points? What do you do? What are your pain points? What do you want to see? What would help you? And so they're correlating all of their research data and coming up with recommendations. I'm far enough down the totem pole that I'm not a part of those conversations, but they are happening, and I was definitely included in the research. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to come up with, because this is the very next thing for our district.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so coming back to you then, Katie, your thoughts on those couple of things, AI, you could probably talk to us for the rest of the hour. And then that idea that digital housekeeping is coming to a school theater near you soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about school housekeeping first, and then I'll talk about the AI. So we use OneDrive. And I remember when it first came out, the amount of OneDrive space we were allotted. I think it was 1 terabyte. And the former director of technology services came to I was a teacher at the time, came to our school and gave some random, alignment data to kind of make a point of how large 1 terabyte is, right? And I remember being like, oh my gosh, I'll never fill 1 terabyte. Well, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a teacher, a CTE teacher, who called and said her terabyte is full. I was like, there's no way her terabyte is, there's no way, no way. Field support, go out and look at it, confirm it. There's no way she can have her terabyte full. Like, what in the heck is going on? Sure enough, her terabyte was full, and we're not prepared. You're right. We had to give her an extra RAM from another computer, which probably sounds so antiquated. So we are in the process right now of identifying the solution for this, because I agree when we look at the future for next year, what are we doing? I am welcome to any suggestions that people have, but yeah, that's definitely something that we're working with, especially with our systems and just all of our departments in here. And it's that piece is also going back to that technology solutions catalog, right? Does a CTE teacher need potentially a different type of device than the kindergarten teacher at the elementary school? Mm-hmm. And is that going to be one of those deviations? And so those are definitely some of the things that we're taking a look at and considering. In terms of artificial intelligence, after we had met, I was fascinated with your idea of Uber learning, and I just can't stop thinking about it. I tell people about it, and their mind is equally blown. And surprisingly enough, I have not had maybe but 1 or 2 people be like, "Psh, like, oh, that's not going to happen." Like, people are like, "Wow, that's actually a fantastic idea of having teachers on call." I think one thing that we're doing is we actually are looking very seriously at a vendor, and I don't want to say who they are, but they have this dashboard that the state of Florida is already leveraging. And one thing we need to really be cognizant about is I think that goes back even to the most simplest things of this, the digital navigation, is making sure that our administrative staff at the schools is on board with a lot of this, because they are the captain of their ship, right? Yeah. And as much as we're here and we can pitch ideas and facilitate a lot of things and support what they're doing, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that they have a clear understanding of where this is going. And so one of the vendors that we're looking at, and it hosts AI and it hosts predictive analytics, is already integrated with something that the state of Florida is doing. And so we want to make sure that we're building on top of that, and things are being created into a single dashboard. And one thing that we're looking at is we're looking at these foundational layers that we're building out in Volusia County. Is we discussed, like, do we want to have one vendor with all of the things, or do we want to have this vendor do this, that vendor do that, etc.? Because it does definitely hold its pros with it being in one thing. It holds one interface. It holds the pieces of information to take us here to go there. But you know, we're still scaling that out. But this one piece, it allows us to take survey data, digital resource data, assessment data, school grade data, students who are at risk, our bubble students, things like that, drilling filters down, having predictive analytics on top of that. That is a very, to me, I'll tell you, it's Bright Bites. The vendor's Bright Bites.
Yeah, because Brad is asking already. Hi, Brad. Yeah. Brad's money.
I will be on pitch for Bright Bites. Bright Bites has been absolutely fantastic, and the state of Florida has already purchased their, I can't remember what it is exactly, but we're obviously moving away from state testing. It was a huge announcement from our governor. And so Bright Bites has taken up with the DOE to host a standards assessment, standards analysis. And so beautiful dashboards, beautiful predictive analytics, everything lays on top of one another. But I also think that is a very small piece of this puzzle, because now we have to get AI into the instruction, and that is huge. That's massive. That's changing the way a teacher teaches. That's changing the way, we've discussed this before, that's changing the way data is being reported to the state potentially. That is impacting profound amounts of things when we start changing the instruction to AI. But I think where we'll start to see these buzzwords of true differentiation, true personalization, true blended learning, you cannot do a lot of that without AI, or else we are going to continue to burn our teachers out, because the teachers, we're leaving all of this machine learning up to our teachers to go identify our bubble students and figure out which standards that they're not being proficient in. And not only do that in math, make sure you're doing that in ELA science. So, I mean, it's insane. It's insane what's being tested of them. So those are my thoughts. And I
love those thoughts. Go ahead.
I said I could go on for another hour, but I know we're short on time.
Yeah, we're getting in here to the end of the time, but awesome thoughts. But I think you're right. I think there's a certain carve out, and it's not the real-time data. It's not the formative work that teachers are doing. I just gave this little quiz in Nearpod or like whatever I did. And I can whip that into my analytics stack. No, it's just the top line data, and it's not really real time. So you really can't use that to fully personalize learning. So I think the real mountain is just like what you just pointed out. It's real-time formative, and it's everywhere embedded inside individualized things in all these different stacks of products. Not to mention the SIS that maybe you're using, or Google Classroom, right? So it's everywhere. That is the hill to climb for AI, and that's going to be hard, but it's doable. All right, so final comments. We have 2 minutes. Connie, final comments, and congratulations so much to both of you. Like, what's your final comment to end us off as our new knight?
Well, it's exciting to be recognized, to look at the totality of the work and all the little pieces that fit together to bring us to this place. And, I appreciate the recognition. And, it's just constant learning and growing here, just nonstop.
Good. Well, congratulations and thank you. Thank everyone over there. Tell them all, like, we think all of them are unbelievably awesome. Have an awesome day. All right. So Katie, you too.
Yeah, just super excited to be recognized. Really, really excited to take this back to the team, though, more than anything. Their tenacity and just sheer perseverance over the last year and a half there's nothing to even describe it, really. And I think this will really hopefully show them that, we are moving in the right direction, and we should be proud of our work and keep going, and just really excited to bring this back to them. So I appreciate the recognition.
Yeah, and give us a week, because everybody will get the little logo they can stick in their email. You can put it on your website. You can link to all the final stories, but it's going to take us a little while to get all the pieces put together with all the editorial going out and all the other stuff. So, but you guys will have that. Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you again so very much.